time, do you sometimes feel anxious when attending a new networking event? Now, if you want to up your networking game, then this is probably for you, and this is presenting confidence when networking. I'm going to cover a range of things, a useful understanding, talk about preparation, frameworks, session strategy, and follow-ups. So by the time we finished here today, you'll be able to create a networking behavior strategy that includes objectives, tactical empathy, and frameworks that you can use in just 1 minute or for an entire networking session. So obviously confidence is when you're feeling good. And what can get in the way of that is more negative feelings. And the feelings about the past will usually come from when you've broken your rules, when you're feeling guilty, you feel shame. I mean, obviously that requires an outside observer, so you don't feel shameful if no one caught you. But you might have regret about yourself, or even remorse. Interestingly, remorse will fade over time, as maybe the other person that you feel that you've upset has maybe got over it, or you don't see them so much. The feelings you get in the present are usually about when other people break your rules. You can get frustrated, irritated, have a temper, being angry, even rage sometimes. Well, the ones that really affect you when you're going into a networking event is about the future, because you're not quite sure what the rules are going to be. You're going to feel anxious, panicky, maybe worrying, and possibly even catastrophizing. What if this happens? What if that happens? What am I going to do? Now, these feelings come from your autonomous nervous system. Now, autonomous meaning it happens autonomously. It happens without you thinking. You don't have to concentrate on making a heartbeat. It all happens in the background. So it's really your autonomic nervous system is really your automatic nervous system that that controls all your organs. Now, if you're going to go for a run, you have to have more oxygen in your blood, because your thigh muscles are going to need oxygen to burn up the sugars. So you need more oxygen, which means your diaphragm sucks more air into your lungs, and your heart beats faster. Now, it's your nervous system that makes those things happen in unison. It'd be pointless sucking more air into your lungs if your heart wasn't going to pump the blood around faster. Now, most of it, or a lot of this, happens from the vagal nerve. Vagal meaning, I think, wanderer, and it sort of wanders through your body. It's like a mesh that goes out and connects to every single organ. Now, 20% of your vagal nerve is about sending information from your brain to your organs, but 80% of it is feedback from your body. And this is where you get that feeling. And you suddenly notice, oh, I'm feeling slightly anxious. Why is that? Because your unconscious mind has sent signals down to your body to coordinate it for your circumstances, but then you're not quite sure why. You haven't cognitively worked that out. So it's a bit like driving. You can control the direction of your car, and you can control the speed. So you've only got two things that you can do. But you've got so much information coming back from the windows, the wing mirrors, the rear view mirror, the dashboard, the speedometer, the rev counter, the temperature, the fuel gauge. So this is all information that comes back to you from whilst you're just controlling those two things. So if you're not feeling safe, it's your parasympathetic nervous system that sort of clicks into gear, your fight or flight system. So you'll have increased heart rate, so you can move more oxygen around. Your breathing rate will be up. Your hearing changes, so you're listening out for sounds of danger, high frequency squeals or low rumble sort of growls or something. And when you're in that state, it's almost like you've got a bit of paranoia, because you start seeing danger everywhere. You sort of try and take up a little less space, obviously to protect your major organs and things, but also just not to be noticed. Um, you don't need to change your facial expressions because you're not engaging with anybody. So why waste energy doing that if you're just trying to stay safe? Your voice prosody, the tonality of your voice. You can tell if someone's depressed that they will just generally be talking like that, and there'll be nothing really, no emotion in there, nothing to get engaged with. And you also lose cognitive function because I think it's about 35% at least if you're angry or if you're uptight, because you don't need to think about a situation. You just need to react because it's the reaction that's going to save you. And also, you probably notice it when your tummy turns over and you get those butterflies in your stomach and you're feeling nervous. Well, that's your digestive system partially shutting down because you don't need the blood to go to the tummy or the stomach to digest the food. You need it for your thigh muscles so you can run. So that's when you're not feeling safe. When you are feeling safe, your sympathetic nervous system kicks into gear. And this is where you can sort of rest and digest. And you don't have to expend energy trying to keep yourself safe, constantly looking around. You'll have increased prosody. Your tone of voice will change. Oh, really? That's amazing. Tell me what happened. More engaging. Your facial expression, well, you'll get more eye contact. You'll be looking at other people's facial expression to see if you can understand what they're thinking about. And you'll have open body language. You can't really see there, but I've got my arms out so you can see my wrists. I'm not scared of you. Look, I'm showing you a very vulnerable part of my body. I'm listening in. I'm presenting my ear so I can hear you better, exposing my jugular. So you're being much more social. You're not just regulating your own nervous system, but you're co-regulating with other people. You've got empathy. You understand them. You can, laughing, dining, having fun. You can cheer someone up. And this is where the connection comes with networking. You can be authentic, have that connection. And because when you're feeling safe, you've got nothing to hide. So with an understanding of how that all works, you can start looking at doing a preparation for your networking event. And a lot of people, well, when I first turned up to networking, I was really quite surprised that I was the third person to say, okay, give us your 1 minute pitch. I was really not ready for it at all. And I started burbling industry jargon and tripping up over my words and felt, not necessarily red-faced, but it was not a great experience because I wasn't prepared. I didn't have a message prepared. So I went off and I worked out what are the things that I need to explain. Well, first of all, will be relevance. Who is it that I work with? Who do I help? Then what problem do they have? And it's not just about the problem they have, but the implications of that problem that they might not necessarily have thought about. Because if you can explain a problem to someone, oh, yeah, I understand you're having this type of problem. And then you go on to the implications in the term of how much money it can cost, or how much time they might be wasting, how stressful it is. They'll suddenly go, yeah, okay, I thought I was just dealing with it, but it's much worse than I thought it was. Now, this leads on to credibility. You can talk about how your experience, and I usually say that I was a corporate trainer in the past. I've been a coach for 20 years, that kind of thing. But really, your credibility comes from your understanding of the problem. Next bit is, what's your product or service? What process do you take people through? And what results do they get? What are the benefits? How do you transform their life, or how will their life be transformed with that problem taken away, with that requirement met? So with that understanding, and having done this sort of thing before, you can put together a couple of success stories. So if you're talking to an author and you've helped an author out before, well, then you've got a success story that's going to be relevant to them. So if you're talking to somebody who wants to, who's in a particular situation, they've got inflammation in their shoulder, and you've helped somebody with inflammation before, well, then that's a relevant success story to talk to them or to tell them. And then finally, your call to action. Now, what is it that you want them to do? Is it to go to your website? Is it to hook up on, meet up on LinkedIn? Is it to have a one-to-one? So those are the 7 aspects. I'll quickly go through those again. The 7 aspects of a marketing message are: who do you work with? What problem do they have? What makes you credible? What process do you take them through? What transformative results do they get? A success story, and then a call to action. Now, in order to answer that, so what do you do question, I just choose 4 of those out of there, so you can just answer it in 20 seconds. I work with business owners and consultants who oftentimes get anxious when they do presentations. I give them a format to follow so they can stand up and talk with confidence and power. So it's: who do I work with? What problem have they got? What do I help them do? And what are the end results? But talking about the call to active, call to action. What is your objective for going to a networking event? Well, presumably it's to create relationships. It's not to go out and sell, because that's not how networking works. You want to create a relationship. So I split my objectives down into 3 sections: a verb, a standard, and a constraint. So the verb being, what do I want them to do? The standard, to what standard we're trying to meet here, and what are the constraints? So it might be you turn up to a networking event and you go, okay, I want to have one-to-one meetings with at least 2 people this week. So the meeting is the verb, the standard is 2 people, and the constraint is this week. So you walk into a room and go, okay, 2 of these people I'm going to meet for one-to-ones before the weekend. So you're really clear on what it is that you want. Sorry. Another thing, talking about stories, is why do you do what you do? Why is it that you're in this industry? What story have you got that is going to let people know the passion that you've got, and for why that you're just so interested in helping people in this particular area? Now, it's not a case about explaining all the features and benefits of your product or service. It's about the problem again. So it's not just the problem, your understanding of the problem and the implications of that problem, but you just kind of fall in love with the problem, such that you understand it with such nuance that it doesn't matter who you speak to, that you'll notice something that they've got that you can help them with. And then another thing to do is to rehearse your body language. I mentioned earlier on about the open gestures. If you stand with your chest out and feet apart, hands on your hips, you will actually change your body chemistry, because your vagal nerve is sending information back to your brain about your stance, and that stance of confidence. And it actually increases the testosterone that you've got in your body. So you are more confident, you are feeling more powerful. So that's the preparation. So you understand where your feelings come from, and you can negate those by doing some preparation, so you know what to say, and you know how people are going, that you get a stand there and not just be meek and mild. So the event itself, as you walk into the room, just pause for a second, look around, take in the room. Anybody looking at you is going to see someone who's not sort of creeping off into the corner. They're looking up and taking in the whole room. Scan the room, and if you know someone, you might want to go over and talk to them. But if you don't know anybody, just choose someone that looks like they might be open to it. Smile, walk along, go up to them, smile, introduce yourself, and inquire as to why they came or what they do, or allow them to ask you a question. But you're there really to gather information so you can create relationships. So I'd suggest listening 80% of the time and talking 20% of the time. So you're trying to get an understanding, and that's what empathy is all about. It's about understanding somebody else's point of view. not necessarily sympathizing with them or taking on the emotions that they might be feeling, but just dispassionately understanding their point of view. And there are 5 tools that I've used them in the past, but since reading the FBI hostage negotiator book by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, I've taken on the terminology that he uses. So the 5 tools are mirroring. Now that's basically when someone sort of stops speaking and you're still not quite sure what they do, or if there's more information you want, you just repeat the last couple of words they've said with a inquisitive tone. So that's why I come networking. Well, that's why I go networking so much. Networking so much. Oh yeah, I go networking quite a lot. So I mean, 2 this week. I've got a couple next week. A couple next week. Yeah, one's in Chelmsford. So you can get the conversation to continue without it seeming like you're interrogating somebody, because you're just sort of getting a little bit of clarity. But if you think, okay, there is a point where you've got all the information that you're going to get in that subject, you could then label what's happened and say, oh, it seems like you really enjoy networking. And then they might go on to say, oh yeah, well, networking is all about creating relationships, and they'll carry on. So you can use these labels, like it seems like, it feels like, or it looks like. So there's three different phrases. So you don't not repeating the same thing again and again, but just label what they've said, and once again, an inquisitive tone, because you're just having fun listening to them talk. And then if you think, okay, well, that's as far as we're going to get with this, maybe you could paraphrase them and say, just sort of not exactly the words, but paraphrase what you've just heard. Now, you'll either be right and they'll say that's right, or you'll be wrong and they'll clarify it. So you're still getting more information. Everybody loves to talk. So the more interesting you are, and the more you more interest you show, and the more you draw out of them, the happier they're going to be, because people like to be understood. And finally, once you think the conversation is completely over, that's when you summarize it. And if someone says, yeah, that's right, then you know they've got nothing else to say. And that's a point where you can talk to them, and they've got nothing on their mind that they want to say, oh, I'm going to let this person talk until it's my turn to speak, and I know exactly what I'm going to say. If they've said that's right, well, they've got nothing else to say. So they will probably listen to you more. So it's understanding their problem, trying to work out what their problem is, and then matching it up with somebody in your network. So you can help, you can put people together. By the law of reciprocity, people that you help are going to feel duty bound to help you back. Now, one other thing about being at a networking event is when you get trapped by someone. Someone's talking at you for a long time, and you think, oh my goodness me, I don't. Or maybe you're having a great conversation, but there's someone you need to talk to. It's difficult just to shut someone down. But if you say, well, look, there's somebody over there that I need to talk to, but before I go, could I ask you a question? And then you go on to ask the question. You've pre-warned them that you're going to go, and you've let them sort of close off the conversation. So that's a really useful technique for getting out of the situation. If you want to see, going back to that thing of having 2 one-to-ones, well, you've got to speak to maybe 10 people. If you're stuck on the 3rd person, you don't want to be there for the entire session. So once you've finished off at the networking event, there's then the follow-up. Obviously the one-to-ones where you can repeat the same sort of structure, but engage with them, offer them referrals, and on social media, ask them questions so they feel like they're making a valuable contribution. And because the answers to the questions are going to be public, you're helping boost their visibility on social media as well. Also, share information with them and share events, other networking events that they might want to go to. So that was presenting confidence with networking. We got some, some understandings about how the body works, how to prepare, a couple of frameworks, a session strategy, and how to follow up. So I'm hoping that you will be able to create a networking behavior that's just personal to you, that includes objectives, tactical empathy, frameworks, so that you can use in just 1 minute for your 1 minute pitch or for an entire session. So that's pretty much it. Any questions? Just got to wait for everybody to be able to speak, and then we can hear the tumbleweed.
Any questions?
There we go.
That was good, Steve. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Anything else?
People will need to unmute themselves.
Yeah, Margaret, you've got to unmute yourself. I've clicked.
I'm muted.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's a lot of good tips there, Steve. Well done.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Steve, that when you're working with people, because I mean, obviously, what you've said there, it kind of you're covering a huge cross section of people. Is there any changes that you would have to make? I think, like within counselling, you work uniquely with their problem. So somebody may not be able to network because they can't speak in public, or there may be another reason. So is there any changes you would make to suit unique traits, if you like?
Yeah, absolutely. It's and it's going to be down to their past experience, their current feeling, and the stories in which they exist.
Yeah.
And so I've got a number of interventions which will include hypnosis, timeline therapy, things that will get someone to pull back a little bit and have realize that if they're particularly upset with someone, well, it's not that person they're upset with. They're just finding the story they've got about that person very upsetting. So it's going to be very much dependent on who they are.
Yeah.
But in general, that's the foundation that I would
base it all on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Okay. Anything else? Okay.
I was a bit surprised, to be honest, Steve, that you said when you first did your networking that you was blubbing over the 60 seconds, because when I listen to you, you are just always on par.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Practice, I guess.
Yeah, I just didn't. I've done presentations before, but I've never tried to sell myself, and I couldn't work it out. When someone said, "So what do you do?" I would have a logjam of information because I didn't have anything rehearsed. I didn't know how to explain it. I was going, "Oh, I can work with anybody." Well, if you can work with anybody, you're not a specialist, are you? I need a specialist. So I could instantly say, by saying that that I can work with anybody, there's no relevance there for them. I want someone to go, "Oh yeah, that sounds perfect for my friend," or, "Oh gosh, I've been dealing with this for ages, but I haven't realized how much time, how stressed I was getting about it." So having the structure, having that framework. I mean, there were 2 frameworks I think I used there, 1 or 3 if you count the cut down one. One was the 7-point marketing message, the cut down version being the 4-point audio logo. Although audio logos nowadays seem to be more about music than a snappy explanation, and the 3 parts of an objective: the verb, the standard, and the constraint. But yeah, it was just putting that together, learning how to do it. I'd never done it before. I'd done presentations before, but I'd never been able to do this sort of thing in a conversation. And I was in love with what I could do. I wasn't thinking about the problem that somebody experiences. So that's what I'm saying. You draw more information out of your fellow networkers. I mean, it could be that you just become friends, but it could be that with a I mean, let's say if you spoke to if you knew 250 people and every single one of them knew exactly what you did, exactly the problem you solved. Well, they know 250 people. That's something like 68,000 as a network, only 1 degree away. So rather than thinking, oh, I don't need to explain it to them, just engage with them and create a connection so they understand. So they understand that you understand them, and then there's room for them to fully understand you.
Brilliant.
It makes sense. Makes sense with regards to talking about niches. A lot of people don't like to niche down because they feel like they're going to miss out on opportunities. But you can have more than one niche as well, and you can adapt your
just get
60
good
seconds,
at one.
I guess, to the people.
Yeah, just get good at one, and then focus. I mean, obviously you can do more than one, but get really good at communicating one, and then that'll be what you're known for. And then you can branch out. But I know one guy. He's got 2 completely separate websites. One is for helping people get over the fear of flying. One is for helping people get over anxiousness when learning to drive. Same product, 2 different marketing websites. So he's niched down just to 2 areas, but still, it's the marketing message that's niched down. His product is still pretty much the same.
Yeah. So know your audience, know their issues, and how you can help solve them. Because you've shared in the past, haven't you? The I help, blah blah blah, and you've that simple 60-second thing, which really is quite useful.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, just to finish off then. Well, thanks very much for listening, and prepare for networking success.
Well done, Steve.